I used to think heartbreak was loud, explosive, violent, something that shatters you in front of witnesses. Turns out, heartbreak can be silent too. Soft as breath, quiet as a choice you don't believe you're making. You ever stand in a room full of people and realize you're suffocating? That was me standing inside Augustine's chapel, surrounded by lilies, lace, and faces that were too happy for a life that didn't feel like mine. They said I looked beautiful. They said I looked ready. But I felt like a ghost wearing someone else's smile. It was my wedding rehearsal. The day before, I was supposed to promise forever to Ethan Caldwell, a man so good, the universe should have apologized for giving him someone like me. Ethan. Steady hands. Warm eyes. A smile that never once made me doubt my safety. He held the kind of love you could fall asleep inside quiet. Soft. Predictable. He represented peace. A peace I'd run toward because my past was a storm. I barely survived. So when he asked me to marry him, I said yes. Not because I was in love, but because I wanted to be done hurting. But even then, even dressed in white, even surrounded by love, I felt numb, disconnected. Like I was acting out a life chosen by someone braver, or someone more naive. The bridesmaids were fussing over the veil. My mother kept fixing my curls, like perfection might save me. Ethan squeezed my hand, whispering, "You okay?" I nodded. Because that's what good brides do. But inside, something was unraveling, a thread pulling loose somewhere deep beneath the ribcage. I didn't know fate was listening. Or maybe fate was just cruel enough to wait for my weakest moment. Because right when I whispered to myself, "This is right. This is safe," the chapel doors burst open, loud enough to snap the air in half. Every head turned. Every breath stalled. If it my entire world tilt. Cole Vesper walked in like he owned the oxygen. Like he owned the darkness. Like he owned me. Black coat dripping from the rain outside. Dark hair pushed back. Damp against his forehead. Eyes good. Those eyes cold to everyone else. But burning when they found mine. A look I hadn't seen in years. A look I hoped I'd never see again. My heart didn't just skip. It slammed into my ribs hard enough to bruise. Cole, the man I swore I'd never speak to again. The man I ran from. The man whose shadow I lived inside long after I left him. He shouldn't have been there. Not in a place like this. Not in a moment like this. Not after everything that happened. But Cole never cared about where he belonged. He only cared about what he wanted. And right then, his eyes told me he wanted me. He stopped in the middle of the aisle, rainwater pooling at his feet. The whole room too stunned to breathe. And he said one sentence that split the world open. "You promised me first." You could have heard the air crack. Someone gasped. Someone whispered a prayer. Ethan stiffened beside me, his fingers slipping from mine as if burned. My pulse was a wild, frantic thing. My knees trembling. My voice gone. Ethan stepped in front of me protectively. "Who the hell are you?" he demanded. Cole didn't even glance at him. Not once. His gaze stayed locked on mine. Unwavering. Unstoppable. As if he'd spent every second of the years apart memorizing the shape of my face and mourning it. My mother clutched her pearls. My father swore under his breath. The priest stammered something about holy grounds. Ethan tried again. Louder this time. "I asked you a question." And that was when Cole finally moved. Just a tilt of his head. A small, slow smile, danger woven into sorrow. He took on a step toward me. Only one. And it felt like the world leaned with him. "Tell him who I am," he said softly. Then, with a sharper edge that sliced straight through me, or should I? My throat locked. My chest tightened. Every memory I'd buried clawed its way back to the surface. His voice. His hands. His promises. The night we broke. The night I fled. The night he let me go so I could live. I wanted to lie. God. I wanted to. But my body betrayed me. My shaking hands betrayed me. My silence betrayed me. The room didn't need an explanation. They felt the truth. Everyone did. Ethan's face, twisted hurt. Disbelief. Anger. Betrayal, all tangled into one expression that made my stomach twist. You know him? He whispered. Not a question. A realization that punched the breath out of him. I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. And that was all the answer Ethan needed. He took a step back, shaking his head. You have to be kidding me. Cole's jaw tightened. His eyes darkened. He said quietly, this should have been me. My father shouted at him to leave. My mother begged someone to call security. The bridesmaids whispered in horror. My world collapsed inside itself. Ethan turned away from me like he couldn't stand to look anymore. He felt myself breaking. Right there. In front of everyone. Cole didn't move. He didn't yell. He didn't reach for me. He just watched me with that devastating stillness. The kind that says, I came back for you. I'm not leaving until you admit why. He felt it. Every ounce of the history between us. Every touch. Every scar. Every word we never healed. And it terrified me. I stumbled backward, tripping on the hem of my dress. Unable to endure another second between the man I chose and the man I could never forget. So I ran. Barefoot. Heart cracking open. Veil streaming behind me like a ghost chasing its own body. I burst through the chapel doors and into the cold night air. The sky smelled like rain. The street lights buzzed. And the world felt suddenly too big. I turned back once. Just once, expecting to see him following me. But Cole wasn't there. He never chased. He didn't need to. His presence lingered heavy. Electric. Impossible to outrun. Like the echo of a promise I thought time had killed. I wrapped my arms around myself, shivering from more than the cold, and whispered into the empty street, why did you come back? The night didn't answer. But deep down, I already knew. This wasn't over. Not even close. The morning after the rehearsal felt unreal. Like waking from a nightmare, only to discover it followed me into daylight. My phone buzzed with messages, Ethan. My mother. The wedding planner. All demanding explanations I didn't have. I moved through my apartment in a fog. Still wearing yesterday's makeup. Yesterday's fear. Yesterday's shame. I kept telling myself he wouldn't come back. He shouldn't come back. Cole Vesper didn't walk into places twice. He was the kind of man who made an impact once, and let the ruin echo for years. But when the knock came, just one. Firm. Unforgettable knock. I knew it was him before. The sound even faded. I opened the door. Same black coat. Sam Dampere. Same impossible stillness, wrapped around danger. His eyes swept over me, taking in the exhaustion, the tear-streaked cheeks, the tremble I couldn't hide. And for just a moment, just long enough to break something inside me, his expression softened. I didn't come to ruin your wedding, he said. I almost laughed. Or cried. I wasn't sure which one my body needed more. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. I came because someone else is coming for you. The air shifted. My stomach dropped. A name clawed at the back of my mind. A ghost I had buried deep. Marcus Hale. I could barely force the words out. He's still alive. Cole nodded once. Alive and angry. He got out 2 weeks ago. He's been looking for you ever since. My knees went weak, and I clutched the doorframe. Memories slammed into me like fists, nightmares, threats, shadows. The night everything fell apart. I used to wake up screaming his name. And now he was back, I whispered. Why didn't you tell me sooner? His jaw flexed. Because I didn't want to drag you into that world again. I almost said. You already did. But the words died on my tongue. He glanced over my shoulder. Eyes sweeping the apartment with familiarity. He wasn't entitled to any more. Can I come in? I should have said no. I should have slammed the door in his face. Locked every chain. And run. But my body moved. Before my brain caught up. I stepped aside. He entered. Like he still lived there. Like no time had passed. Like he wasn't the reason I'd built this new life made of safety instead of love. He walked slowly. Touching nothing, but absorbing everything. The framed photos. The soft colors. The vase of flowers Ethan brought me yesterday. It was a life Cole didn't fit into. A life built in the empty space he left behind. He finally turned to me. Eyes sinking deeper into mine. You really tried to forget me. I swallowed. But it felt like the truth lodged in my throat. I did. I whispered. And you wouldn't let me. His chest rose and fell once. Deeply. That's not why I'm here. But it was a lie. He was here for all the wrong reasons. And all the right ones. He closed the distance between us. Slow enough for me to step back. But he didn't. Couldn't. His hand lifted hesitant. Restrained, then brushed my wrist. Exactly where he used to hold me when he wanted me close. My breath caught. Tell me you don't feel it anymore. He murmured. Tell me that. And I'll leave. I opened my mouth. No sound came out. Because he knew. He always knew. The cruelest truth in the world. I never stopped feeling anything. Not the longing. Not the fear. Not the love he ruined and couldn't let die. He let his hand fall. Stepping back like the confession he didn't need was already spoken. The silence between us thickened heavy with memories. With nights we never healed from. With promises we both broke. He ran a hand through his hair. I didn't disappear. Because I wanted to. He said quietly. I disappeared because Marcus would have killed you if I stayed. I felt it then, the old wound ripping open. I left. I whispered. I ran so you could live. He nodded. And I stayed away so you could, I whispered. Why didn't you tell me sooner? His jaw flexed. Because I didn't want to drag you into that world again. I almost said. You already did. But the words died on my tongue. He glanced over my shoulder. Eyes sweeping the apartment with familiarity. He wasn't entitled to any more. Can I come in? I should have said no. I should have slammed the door in his face. Locked every chain. And run. But my body moved. Before my brain caught up. I stepped aside. The past pulled us backward in spirals. The night of the raid. The blood on his shirt. The fire behind us. His voice telling me to go. His eyes promising he'd find me if he survived. And he did. He always did. Even when I didn't know. Because then he said it. The truth that made my skin prickle. I've been watching over you for years. My breath hitched. But he didn't flinch. I kept my distance. I made sure you were safe. I made sure he never found you. This is where you'll find me tonight. He said. In case you still want answers. He walked to the door. Paused. Looked back once, a look carved from regret and hope. Then he left. I unfolded the paper with shaking fingers. Meet me. Midnight. Harbour Bridge. I told myself not to go. Not to reopen the wound. Not to step back into the fire that once consumed everything I loved. But midnight found me anyway. The harbour was drowned in fog. Streetlights flickered overhead. Waves slapped the rocks like whispers holding secrets. And there, leaning against the railing, was Cole, a shadow carved from all the moments I tried to forget. He didn't look up immediately. He just smoked silently, watching the ocean, like it could tell him how to fix the mess he made of our lives. When he finally turned, something inside me stuttered. "You shouldn't be here," he said. I almost laughed. "Neither should you. We talked, or argued. It was the same with us. Anger threaded with longing. Pain wrapped in love. He tried to push me away. I tried to pretend I wanted him to. But the truth spilled everywhere. How he lost everything protecting me. How my life was built on the ruins of his. How he never stopped wanting me. How I never truly belonged to anyone else. When he stepped close enough that I could feel the warmth of his breath. Time folded in on itself. We almost kissed, the kind of almost that could break a person. But I pulled back. Barely. "Why now?" I asked. He looked away. Jaw tight. "Because Marcus is out. And he wants you." Cold crawled up my spine. Fear I hadn't felt in years. "He won't get to you," Cole said. "I won't let him." I shook my head. "You can't keep destroying yourself to save me." He stepped closer. His voice dropped. "I'm not destroying myself. I'm protecting what's mine." The words stole whatever breath I had left. Before I could answer, he kissed my forehead soft. "Reverent. Final. I'll end this," he said. Then he walked away. I took one step to follow, just one, and the night lit up in fire. A blast shook the street. Heat slammed into my skin. People screamed. Glass shattered. And I lost my voice to a single Raf. Broken cry. Cole. They said there were no survivors. They said the car was obliterated. They said he was gone. I collapsed on the pavement, sobbing into my hands, the fog swallowing the world around me. I didn't believe them. Not really. But the truth hit me like a knife. I was alone again. And somewhere deep inside, a darker truth whispered, this wasn't the end. Not for him. Not for me. Not for us. Never for us. 1 year is a strange amount of time. Long enough for the world to forget what happened to you, but not long enough for you to forget what happened inside you. A year after the explosion, I lived in a small apartment overlooking the harbour. Zaltwind. Distant fourgons. Seagulls that screamed too early in the morning. It wasn't peaceful. Not really, but it was quiet in a way that didn't make me feel guilty anymore. I taught piano to children who didn't care much about scales or tempo. Kids who played too fast when they were excited. And too loud when they forgot their nerves. I liked watching their hands. Clumsy. Soft. Unafraid. We almost kissed, the kind of almost that could break a person. But I pulled back. Barely. Why now? I asked. He looked away. Jaw tight. Because Marcus is out. And he wants you. Cold crawled up my spine. Fear I hadn't felt in years. He won't get to you. Cole said. I won't let him. I shook my head. You can't keep destroying yourself to save me. He stepped closer. His voice dropped. I'm not destroying myself. I'm protecting what's mine. Some days I convinced myself I was healing. Other days I felt stuck between the woman I used to be and the one I was trying to become. But each day, painfully and quietly, I rebuilt pieces of myself. Then came the night that broke the silence. I returned home from the studio. Tired. Hands smelling faintly of old piano keys. The hallway was dim. The air heavy with rain. And taped to my door stark against the white paint was a black envelope. My heartbeat kicked. Sharp and immediate. I knew that shade of black. I knew that bold handwriting. I knew that sense of being watched and held and haunted. With trembling fingers, I peeled it off and opened it. Inside was a single piece of paper. One word. Written like a claim. Like a memory. Like an ache mine. My breath caught. My knees weakened. Not from fear. Not this time. But something warmer. Something worse. Something like relief. Then I pulled out the second thing, a Polaroid, a picture of me teaching a little girl the C major scale, taken from outside the window. Close enough to catch the light on my cheek. Close enough to see the small scar on my wrist, the one he once kissed after promising I'd never be hurt again. He didn't scream. I didn't panic. I pressed the photo to my chest and whispered into the empty hallway, I knew you weren't gone. Because I did. Deep in the marrow of me. I always knew. For a week. Nothing else happened. But the world felt different. As if a shadow had settled beside mine again. Not threatening. Just watching. Waiting. It was raining the night I finally saw him again. Not a storm. Just a gentle, constant drizzle that softened the streetlights and blurred the world into something dreamlike. I was locking up the music studio when I sensed it, that shift in the air. That gravitational pull I remembered too well. I looked down the street. There he was, leaning against a lamppost. Collar turned up. Face half hidden in the wet glow of the light. Coal. Older. Thinner. A man who looked like he'd spent a lifetime running from things that wanted him dead, and memories that refused to die. My feet moved before my mind caught up. Every step brought him clearer into focus. The new lines on his face. The exhaustion in his shoulders. The love in his eyes that hurt to look at when we finally stood before each other. The world felt suspended. Held together by the space between us. Neither of us spoke. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small velvet pouch, placing it gently in my hand. Inside was a gold ring. Simple. Elegant. No diamonds. Just quiet devotion. His voice was low. Roughened by things he'd never say. I kept it for when it was safe. He said, a beat. A breath. The truth settling between us. It never was. Ifet me ejbur. Before I could speak. He stepped closer. Close enough for me to feel the heat of him. Close enough to smell the rain in his hair. He lowered his forehead to mine. Just like he used to. A gesture that meant everything and nothing and goodbye. His lips brushed my forehead. A kiss shaped like devotion. Like suana. Like the last promise he could give. When he pulled back, he whispered, I shouldn't have come. My voice trembled. Then why did you? His eyes softened. Heavy with love and regret. Because I needed to see you standing on your own 2 feet. A pause. You found your strength. Now I have to find mine. Something inside me cracked. And healed. All at once. No. I whispered. You can't just come back and leave again. But he shook his head. Rain dripping from his lashes. If I stay, they'll use you against me. If I stay, you'll never be free. It took a shaky breath. You deserve a life without looking over your shoulder for my ghosts. I stepped forward. Desperate. I don't care about them, I do. He said softly. The final blow. He gently removed my hand from his coat. I have to leave. Sweetheart. The endearment crushed me. It always did. I wanted to grab him. Beg him. Demand he choose me. But for the first time since the night I met him, I didn't. Because the woman I was a year ago would have chased him into the dark, but the woman standing here now, reborn through pain and loss, and rebuilding, finally understood. Love wasn't possession. It wasn't sacrifice. It wasn't bleeding for each other until nothing remained. Sometimes, love was letting go. So I let my hands fall. And he noticed. A single tear slipped down his cheek. He didn't hide it. Didn't apologize for it. He just looked at me one last time, a look that held everything we were. Everything we could have been. and everything we'd never have. Then he turned and walked into the rain. I didn't hussa him. That's how I knew I was finally healed. The next morning, I sat at the piano while my students giggled and banged on the keys with sticky fingers. Their joy was loud and out of tune and utterly beautiful. As they played, my voice drifted inside me like a quiet truth. Love didn't save me. It changed me. Some promises don't end. They just change shape. Later, when the last child left, I closed the piano lid gently. My fingers brushed the ring on my hand. His ring, not worn out of possession, but out of remembrance, out of healing, out of peace. I don't wait for him anymore. But some nights, when the wind shifts just right, I feel him watching from somewhere unseen. Not haunting, not hurting, just making sure I'm still breathing. Fade out. And if this story stayed with you, if it made your heart ache a little, if it reminded you of a love you once survived, or a version of yourself you're still becoming, then don't just slip away quietly. Leave a comment. Tell me which moment hit you hardest. I read every single one. If you want more stories like this, stories about fierce love, quiet healing, and the kind of men you never forget, make sure to like the video. It helps more women find these stories. Subscribe if you want to stay with me for the next chapter. Share it if you know someone who needs a story tonight. Thank you for listening, and for feeling this one with me.